My name is Dylan McFry, and I'm here to walk you through this video presentation concerning my work in the module that deals with lifelong professional learning, which is a very important concept for teachers because if you're not learning, then you're not really doing anything. The module dealt with the benefits of teachers continuing to learn as they progress through their career. This is especially true concerning the concept of personalized learning. The driving question of the module was, why would lifelong professional learning be important to an educator who is looking to facilitate a personalized classroom setting? The first portion of this assignment that I wish to guide you through are 4 resources that I found extremely helpful while I was working with my own classes and also working with my colleagues at school to develop a strong personalized learning community. The first resource was an article for futureready.org, Personalized Professional Learning. This article was a good summary and provided some good tips about what it means for teachers taking responsibility for their professional growth, and also the concept of just how important it is for teachers to continue to grow, because a teacher who stagnates and doesn't see the importance of moving forward is a teacher that will lose effectiveness as generations grow and as generations change. Because if every student and every generation of students stayed the same, then teachers would really have no reason to continue to grow. So this article was very good in helping me see the importance of continually changing the skill set of teachers. Second resource number 2, was Professional Development for Personalized Learning Practices from HanoverResearch.com. Very in-depth article here with an entire table of contents, close to 30 pages. And this article was very good in summarizing the importance of continued professional learning in the personalized learning arena, but also different practices that help teachers apply this, and the importance of things like frequent opportunities for teacher collaboration, teacher leadership, focusing on how students need to learn. Just another great resource for establishing how important it is for teachers to continue their learning as they progress in their career. Resource number 3, Creating Effective Professional Learning Communities from Edutopia, a very good resource. Anytime an article can take you through step by step and give you different ideas and techniques for implementing a certain concept, I consider that a strong resource. And this article does a very good job of explaining the benefits of creating these professional learning communities and also just the best ways to go about doing so. And then finally, possibly the best resource was from Jennifer Gonzalez, who I've referenced in a previous video, and her article from Cult of Pedagogy, How Pineapple Charts Revolutionize Professional Development. And basically, a pineapple chart is a chart in which teachers post what they're going to be doing and what activities and concepts they're covering during certain parts of each class day. And if a teacher sees something that they're interested in and they have an open time, or if it's their planning period or planning block, they can then go to that teacher's class, sit in, and observe and see what they think. And this is a beautiful way of establishing PLCs, or professional learning communities, because teachers can have an open door policy in their classroom, and they can then go and see if they're curious about how to implement a certain content or a concept of class, or they're interested in a technology resource. They can go to another teacher, observe how they implement it, how they teach it, and that can then give them ideas for their own class. It is the sharing of ideas and sharing of teaching techniques and continued professional development that PLCs, that's their main purpose. That's what they're there for. That's what will be the biggest benefit for teachers moving forward. So those were 4 great resources to use for this. I will then provide 3 artifacts each for 2 different concepts. First, I'm going to walk us through 3 artifacts that I've gathered that show how I have myself participated in a professional learning community, and then I'm going to share 3 artifacts that show that I was seeking chances to promote personalized learning within these professional learning communities. So the first artifact that I want to share is this. For the biology PLC group in which I am a part of at my school, we have been discussing which standards are essential. So which of the state standards we consider essential for students to know, and which ones are fitting in the more supporting standards, in which we still want to learn them, but at the same time they might be not quite as important as our essential standards. So this was one example of using our PLC because the 3 biology teachers sat together. We talked about which standards were the most important, which ones we would deem essential, and we placed them in these boxes here. And at the same time, the supporting standards were moved to this side. So that was one way in which our PLC group collaborated and established a working pattern so we could work together to figure out which standards are most important moving forward. Another article here, or an artifact, excuse me, that I would like to use, I have here Biology PLC Meeting Minutes from February 10th. This is just a meeting, a rundown of the minutes of this meeting on February 10th and what we did. So it shows when we started and when we ended the meeting and what was discussed during each part of it. So this shows that this is an artifact that displays evidence of me participating in a professional learning community. We actually, our PLCs at Gordon Central High School, we meet together once a week on a designated day before the school day begins. So we met together and we covered a variety of concepts. Like here, we reviewed some common formative assessments that we had been creating, what their purpose was. We discussed short and long-term goals for implementing these. We discussed the pros and cons of personalized learning, which I will get to momentarily. We actually created a common formative assessment, 5 questions long, that covered the concept of mitosis or cell division. And then we made changes to a CFA we had made the previous week to bring it more in line with this week's version, or that week's version. And finally, another artifact that I would like to use for this, the third artifact for displaying PLC participation, is actually on the Schoology platform. One of the CFAs we created is the Punnett Square quiz. And we worked together to create this quiz, and we actually implement it in biology class. So you see here I can scroll through student names and see how they did and what scores they achieved on the assessment. So it was by PLCs, by using a PLC, that we worked together to create this assessment. And then based off the results here, we were able to then analyze the results and plot pathways moving forward. And this is where personalized learning came in. And those are now 3 new artifacts that I'm going to present to show evidence that I was seeking chances to promote what I've learned about personalized learning and how it can be effective for my biology colleagues. So I'm going to show 3 different meeting agendas here. The first from January 27th. So earlier in the semester, we had one of our PLC meetings, the 3 biology teachers. We reviewed common formative assessments. We went over long-term goals for implementing these. This is kind of an ongoing thing. And finally, you see here, I made a brief presentation over personalized learning in which I discussed what it was, the pros and cons of it, and the many benefits it can have for student learning. This went hand in hand with the CFA concept, because we were creating common formative assessments to create ways for students to progress in class and for other students to have remediation opportunities. As such, advocating for personalized learning gave me a way to tell my biology colleagues that there was a good way that we could structure our classes based around giving students these remediation opportunities or opportunities to display more in-depth mastery. Second artifact will be a PLC meeting minutes I displayed earlier, but also from a month later from February 10th. I've gone over what we did in the meeting, but you see here, we had an open discussion about personalized learning. We talked about the pros and cons. We talked about if we had implemented any portion of it in our class up to that point and how it went. So if I had a personalized learning experience, I shared it, whether it was positive or negative, and we just talked about it. We talked about how well it went, or if it went bad, what we could have done to make it better. And overall, the feeling of personalized learning was very positive because we found that it was giving us a great opportunity to get help for the students that needed more help, but also to give students who were excelling a better opportunity to display their mastery of content. And the third and final artifact I have is meeting minutes from actually just a couple of days ago, from March 24th. And this here we actually established personalized learning pathways based off of the results of a common formative assessment. So from the Punnett Square common formative assessment that we implemented, based off the results, we worked together then to establish different assignments for different achievement levels. And I actually detailed that in a previous video. So if students achieved very highly on the assessment, they moved on to the character cross assignment in which they worked to, I'm so sorry I cannot think of the word, They work to apply, there it is, apply their knowledge of trait inheritance in an assignment in which they worked through a real life scenario and combining traits of certain parents, in this case cartoon characters, and creating a child and displaying via Punnett squares how they moved these traits from parents to child and the different probabilities of how they got those certain traits. And of course, then the students that did not achieve highly on the assessment, we then move them on to a more generic genetics review assignment in which they practice working through Punnett squares. They practice identifying genotypes and phenotypes. They practice identifying traits and different alleles and the difference between these terms. So you see the progression of these three artifacts. We see how I introduced personalized learning. We talked about different examples of how this looked in class. And finally, we began to implement it in our classes. So advocating for it was a great thing, as now myself and the other biology teachers are moving our classes toward this model on a full-time basis, and we are loving the results. So there you have it. I had presented 4 resources that discuss the benefits and what it means to be lifelong learners for educators. I presented 3 artifacts that detailed my involvement in a professional learning community. And finally, I ended with the 3 artifacts that showed that I was seeking chances to continually promote the benefits of personalized learning. Thank you so much for watching.